Alright guys, we're back with the fourth and final episode of this island camp series. We had some beautiful drone shots during this series. I really do like that, the different elements of, using the drone and stuff, and I really think it adds a lot to the videos when you've got that footage that you otherwise couldn't get. So by this point in time we were already supposed to be heading out this morning, but with the weather, the water was quite choppy and stuff, so that didn't pan out. But again, I kind of had planned that if this had happened, I would be fine. Here's a shot of the water. You can see that it's choppy. I've mentioned this in other parts of the series, but my experience level with the watercraft isn't very high, so I play within my limits, and I don't take chances, and that was a little too rough for me, and I'm going to be honest, I'm too out of shape to battle that crosswind to head out, even if it wasn't white caps and stuff like this. So we'll break right into the bushcraft on this day 4. I think I mentioned this at the end of the video, but the particular reason that I wanted to craft this fire stand that I'm making in this 4th episode was because I discovered where I had previously had my fire on the ground there, that there was a root for one of the big spruce trees there. And this is the location I wanted to frequent again. So I decided to take the time to make this stand so that I didn't damage the root system for that spruce tree. Spruce trees, their roots run up real close to the surface, and they kind of spread out like that. They don't go down like a pine tree does. So it was important to me that I covered that root up and didn't continue to light fires on it. So I elected to make this fire stand. It surprises me, of all the things that I see on YouTube for, bushcraft related stuff and whatever, that I never see anybody make these fire stands, and it really surprises me because they are such an excellent thing to craft if you're in really wet ground and you don't want your fire to be put out by the moisture on the ground. You can elevate it up like this so that it's nice and dry and you don't struggle with it burning. And even if you raft it and stuff first, that raft will burn up and then you're still in the wet ground. So I've used it a couple times for that, and I use it lots of times to where the ground is really duffy and there's a chance that your fire may burn into the ground and flare up when the wind and stuff blows. So rather than take the chance with that, with it burning into the ground, I see all the time on Instagram these people are in this beautiful pine forest and there's moss everywhere, where that's all peat moss. You light a fire on that crap, it's burning right into the ground, and you have a very high potential of a forest fire later in time. So sure, you got your beautiful Instagram picture there, but I mean, it's at the cost of what? If you take a little bit of time and you craft something like this, you don't run the risk of having that happen. Didn't take the time to chamfer these stakes, or at least I didn't film it if I did, but before you pound and stuff like this, you should put a chamfer around the top where you're going to be beating it down with the axe like that. Just helps it from splitting. Again, I love the Trail Boss by Cold Steel. That axe is, I really like it. It's long enough you can split wood easily enough with it, and it's short enough that you can choke right up on it, and it's not clumsy for, you know, doing stuff like this. So it eliminates the need to take both an axe and a hatchet. Just using a stick there to get the rough level of this. It doesn't need to be perfect. Again, it's bushcraft. It doesn't need to be all flush and symmetrical and perfect in every avenue. It just needs to be functional. So I'm just doing a rough level check with a crooked stick, and we're good to go. Your posts don't need to be overly thick for this. You don't need to have a big diameter on these logs, as all the pressure is straight down. So I mean, you can get away with fairly skinny material. You know, 2 inches, 3 inches is more than enough, depending how high you're going. If the higher you go, you'll want to have a little bigger stick. Like with our wild camping spot there where we built the new bushcraft shelter, I went with a little bit, not much, but a little bit heavier posts on that one, just because it was up quite a bit higher. That one was meant to cook on and stuff when you were standing there. Again, when you're doing this mundane stuff like this, I found that the videos did way better when you were constantly changing up your camera angles and stuff to try to make it more interesting. When you do it, you want it to, you know, I try to think of it like a movie. So when you're watching a movie, they don't just have the camera back here and show 2 people talking or running or jumping or whatever it is they're doing. It's always a multitude of angles all mashed up and changing, and close-ups and far away, and I try to emulate that in my videos. I mean, obviously not to the point of you know, the movies, but following along that same guideline to keep it interesting for the viewer. So you can see this is the same shot, but the first one was far away. Now this one's closer. Now I might go back out. I don't remember, you know, exactly. This is a long time ago I edited this, but it's a change up, so it's a little bit more interesting to the viewer. So you can see I'm back out again, and now a complete change in camera angles altogether. It's there's a lot more that goes into the filming and editing than I think a lot of people realize. And I'm not even good at it. I mean, there are channels that are far better with the filming and editing and stuff than I am. But until you put in the effort yourself to try to get all the different camera angles and capture that sort of content like that, you really get a lot more of an appreciation for them guys that are going through and doing that. Because let me tell you, it takes a long time. Something that should be very simple, you know, a task that might normally take 30 seconds can now take, you know, 1 minute and 30 seconds or 2 minutes. And then by the time you factor in the editing and everything on that, to get something that would require you 30 seconds when you set the camera back up here, now by the time the whole process is done, it's a 10-minute thing, you know. Like it's something you can have an appreciation for. Again, doing the rough eyeball level here, right? That's the way it goes. So for this base layer here, it's not super crucial when you're putting the logs on horizontally like that to have it even close to flush or even the same size logs. It doesn't really matter, because when you move into the next step there, you'll level it out with the next step. So there's no need to split the log or any of that kind of stuff. Just throw your round logs on there and the rest will take care of itself. So I'm rolling the stick around like this because I had pre-marked all the sticks so that when I was filming it, it just was more fluent. It wasn't a stop, grab the previous stick, set it on there, you know what I mean? They're all, I did that beforehand to try to make the filming a little bit more smooth. Again, I find this important when you're stopping like this to actually film it, because it shows that you are a person, that it's not all about work and you power through because you're some kind of super tough woodsman who doesn't even need water or to take a break, or, you know. So I found it was important to film these little breaks like this, even though it kind of took away from the break because you're constantly moving the camera around. But just to show that you know, it's important to stay hydrated and take a break and you know, don't turn it into work. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. See, so again, you can see there's a bigger log and then it drastically drops down. There's as much as an inch difference between that one log. That doesn't matter at all, not in the slightest. As long as they're heavy enough to hold the weight of the material that we'll be putting on here in the next step. This was not fun. Everywhere I dug, I hit water. The water table obviously is pretty high on the little island. Like I said, where I am, I'm quite lucky because it was kind of a higher spot that was drier. But in my attempts to go around like this and dig, it was challenging because I'd hit this, you know, black soupy dirt water mixture right away, and I had a hard time when I got to the clay stage in finding clay. But typically what I do with these fire lays like this is I'll layer it, where I'll put that real black soupy kind of dirt, and then I'll put a layer of clay, and then if it's at all possible I'll put a layer of gravel. But for this particular camp, a layer of gravel wasn't an option, so Again, the board that I'm using here, I had found just a tree that had previously been blown over by the wind, and it was rotten in the center, and whatever was why it broke off. So I basically just grabbed that piece of the stump and pulled on it and busted off this chunk of board essentially, but it was kind of hollowed in the middle, so I was able to get more material into that every time I made a trip. It was tough to film this one as clearly and as good as it should have been, because you're just full of mud all the time, and to move the camera equipment around and stuff was you know, clearly I'm an amateur YouTuber. I don't have money to be buying a bunch of cameras every time I go out, so I have to make sure you know, sometimes maybe I have to make a sacrifice in filming in order to protect my equipment. This is very monotonous, this task, so I mean I skipped a lot of filming too. That you guys get the idea. I'm going from point A to point B to dig out a bunch of mud, and then I'm going back to point A and I'm putting it on there. You can lose a lot of viewers pretty quickly if it's too repetitive, too much the same. Even if you're changing camera angles and whatever, they're just like, well, you showed me this already. You don't need to spend a bunch of detail on digging and packing mud. I like to show these shots like this so you can kind of see the different stages of the layering of the material that I'm putting on top. So you can see it's real wet, soupy stuff on the log, and then we're getting into a little bit more drier, fluffier black dirt. You do not want to use dirt that is at all duffy or peat mossy or anything like that. It'll just literally burn right through it. It'd be no different than lighting it on the peat moss on the ground. It'll literally just catch it on fire, and your whole fire stand and everything will go up in flames. So here's a couple shots of where we're sitting with the program so far. So you can see we're probably a couple inches thick already there, and that's just your real soupy wet layer, and then your more black fluffy kind of dirt if you can find it. And then now we're moving on to the clay here. So we're right in camp. I went all over the place, and I could not, shy of the one hump that I think I showed you in the previous video, but it was a long ways away from camp. I thought that there might be clay there, but there was a lot of trees and whatever growing up on, near, and around that hump too, that it would have been hard digging out and very damaging to the root system on them trees, so I elected not to go with that. I didn't find the world's best clay, but I mean I couldn't be picky either. I had to use what I could find there in that location, and I was plenty confident that it wasn't going to burn anyways, which is your only real concern. It may not have the longevity of a fire stand that you make with the proper material, but I mean at this particular location I might spend a week or two here a year, so I mean that's not bad at all. And with this kind of stand, this isn't a constant fire stand. It's, you know, used for small fires, for cooking and for smudges, stuff like that, so it's not burning all the time anyway. So there you go, you can see that's, you know, 4 or 5 inches thick on there with that material. You need that so you have, you know, if a fire burns away on there for a period of time, it can warm the dirt up, whatever, shuffling logs around, it'll stir the dirt around and whatever. So if you make it too thin, you run the risk of the fire being able to drop through that layer that you put on there and onto the logs, and again, everything will catch on fire. So this is a very simple system that I'm making here just to be able to hang my pots and stuff up there. And it's, you know, I like to add these different things every time I make a stand. And just makes it clean and simple. You don't have excess sticks or materials anywhere but right directly above the platform, so you're not going to trip on them or anything similar to that. So you get the rough idea of what's going on now. You got the platform and you got your wire sticks going up the side, and then they pulled across the middle, and then I'll make a bail stick to hang on that horizontal center pole there. And that'll come down, hook to the pole, and hook to your pot, so you can adjust it back and forth depending on the sheet and whatever that you want there. There are a couple different ways you can make this too. One way is you can make an X like that and then carve the material out on whatever side of the X. So if you're making it to hang a pot, you would carve the material out of this top half of the X and leave the bottom, and then make like a thing like that for your pot to slip on there and hang on. Or the other way to do it, which I usually do it, it's a lot quicker, easier. Why bother wasting time and playing around making something similar to this with the X method? You could just take your saw, put it in there on an angle, do it twice, bust that little piece out of the middle, and you're done. It works exactly the same. It takes you, you know, 20 seconds to craft, as opposed to that takes you 5-10 minutes. The wind has really been a challenge here. That today was really windy on the island, and you know, you got to be conscious of that too. When you elevate your fire like this, it does catch more wind, so you got to be, you know, make sure your conditions aren't as such that, you know, it might be able to blow some embers away from you and you know, start a forest fire or get anything like that going. I'm not concerned with that in the slightest on this island because it's so wet. You know, to go light a fire in most of them places would probably be pretty challenging, let alone to do it with a single ember floating across the sky. We have made a number of these fire stands too. If you check out one of my videos, I think it's called Solo Bushcraft in the Pouring Rain, or something similar to that. you'll see I have a much larger one there where I've got the elevated fire stand, and beside it is a big counter space. It's got a big back wall to stop with the wind blowing, and I can hang all my pots and different cooking utensils, whatnot, on top of there. That's just how your bale stick works, and the idea of the whole concept of the table. Again, this trip I largely tried to showcase the Kelly kettle and the hobo stove and different attachments that I have for it. So I really debated at this point whether or not I should just film with the fire stand, or if I should still use the hobo stove, because I was kind of part of the whole film of it, right? And I did elect to use the hobo stove on top of the table again, as well as using the fire that I lit on top there. For those of you thinking about getting a Kelly kettle, I would say go for it. I mean, it's been a really good piece of kit. It was the first biomass stove that I had ever purchased, and I haven't regretted it. It boils water very, very, very quickly. I got mine with this little hobo stove attachment, and I mean, it cooks plenty good enough. As you can see, I've used it pretty well every day for cooking here on this island camp. Biomass stove is a biomass stove. It just saves you a lot of fuel and whatnot when you use that. But the big thing about the Kelly kettle is its water boiling capability. It is by far the best water boiler on the market today, in my opinion. And you don't have to carry all the fuel cylinders around, which is pretty key. Again, steak on the coals, you guys got to be some used to seeing that. I think every meal has had some venison in some way, shape, or form being cooked on the coals. Big meals again on this 4th day. Like I said, I brought enough food that if I ended up that I was on that island for twice as long as the trip was originally planned, I would still have food to spare. So you can see how that camp was all constructed like that, that it's a very tight camp. It's very close. Everything is very close. But I wanted that I could do everything from the chair, essentially. I had the fire stand directly in front of me. I could lean ahead and I could deal with that. I had the table that I had crafted right beside the chair so I could have all my cooking stuff and whatever I needed. A spot to put things down if it rained or whatever wasn't a big deal. I mean, they'd get wet, but they wouldn't get covered in dirt and sand and stuff from the splashing up of the water as it hits the ground. If you're lucky enough there with them, the Y sticks that you use for your elevated fire stand to hold the horizontal pole, if you're lucky enough with them, you can get them with a few fairly sturdy little branches that come off of them. And that's nice too, because then you can hang your pots and everything on either side right on that pole. Just going to pause this here quickly. And take the time to thank you guys for joining me for this series. This was the first one that I chose to do for the new opening up series. This was the first set of videos, the first camp that I wanted to sit here and watch with you guys and give you some commentary and a few ideas about what I was doing and why I was doing it. It was a very special camp to me. I mean, you could see, just look at the pause screen. That sunset is absolutely amazing. It was the first time I went on any watercraft sort of camp. So that to me was special. I was very remote. I was isolated. I mean, it took an hour and a half of rowing for me to get out there. In a lake. Again, the lake is Chip Lake, Alberta. The island I was on is called Big Island. And nobody goes out there in the summer. I mean, very seldom do you ever see anybody out on the lake. In the wintertime, it is full of people ice fishing. They set up their whole little tent city out there. But anyway, so for the summer camp, it was very... I really like that, the big sense of being alone. Like, I'm not going to see anybody else. Nobody's going to disrupt my camp. That was really nice. I mean, there was still... You're close enough to civilization. You know, when it was real still out, you could still hear the highway traffic a couple kilometers away. You could hear the train, both of which, Highway 16, the Trans-Canada Highway, and the railway track, both of them parallel the south side of the lake. So you're not to the point that you don't hear anything from society, but at the same time, I don't think I've ever been on a camp where I have. I mean, I've been doing wild camping and whatnot, and I mean, sometimes you get a helicopter that literally just flies right over, like whether they see the smoke from your fire and they think there could potentially be a forest fire, or you know, I don't know, you seem like you deal with that kind of stuff no matter what camp you go on. And so this was special to me, and I really enjoyed exploring it, seeing the different people that were there. Yeah, went back for a winter camp on that island too. We've got that video uploaded. I stayed in the Polish Lavu for that one. But again, quite a different feeling because you have, you know, all the ice fishermen out there. But I wanted to thank you guys for joining me for this series. I would appreciate it if you left down in the comments what you thought about it. If you think having this, you know, sitting here watching this video with you guys, doing the comments on the video itself, if you think it's a waste of time, not really good avenue to pursue, let me know that kind of stuff down in the comments. Or if you love it, if you think it's a great idea, you like the silent films, but at the same time you like to hear what I have to say about it, just, you know, leave your opinion down in the comments. I greatly appreciate that. And we'll see you in the next episode of the series. I think I will be working on my solo Bushcraft camp, the actual Bushcraft one that got, it's by far my most viewed video. I think it's over 40,000 views now, which I know isn't much, but for a small channel, that's, you know, I'm quite happy with that. It's not a, you know, up to the numbers of a big YouTube channel, but I'm just, I'm a little guy, right? So I'm happy with them numbers. But there was a lot of comments and stuff on that video, and I want to address some of that. So I'm really looking forward to that video, and that'll likely be the next one I do in this series. But thank you guys for checking this out and for watching with me, and we'll see you in the next one. Till then, keep outdoors. Wow, am I glad that wind's finally over, at least for the night. I don't know how well the video today would have turned out with the audio, but all I can do is try. I don't have the, you know, the big fancy cameras with the wind mics and all that crap. The one that I had, yeah, it crapped out, so yeah. Unfortunately, you guys have probably noticed from the Bushcraft Treehouse series on, audio has been a bit of an issue, but that's just the way it goes. So we got stuck out here an extra day, like I said, which was fine. We took the opportunity to make a elevated fire stand today. This is a completely different style that I've never tried before, so I thought if I'm going to be out here, I might as well, you know, try to be useful while doing it. So I made this elevated table. I noticed there was a big root on the ground from the spruce tree behind me here, and I didn't want to have another fire on it. I thought, I got time, why don't I make an elevated fire stand, and I won't be, you know, damaging the root system of those trees. So I got a little smudge going on the elevated fire stand right now. As soon as the wind went away, the no-see-ums come out like crazy. So I decided just to light another little smudge up on top there, just to waft smoke around. So I just made a coal bed and then threw a bunch of wet punky driftwood on it. It's producing enough smoke to keep them little buggers away anyways. So for today, basically that's all we got up to. Is I worked on the table here and made this, or not the table, the fire stand, sorry. I worked on the fire stand and, you know, the pot hanging system and stuff that goes with it. That actually took a lot longer than you would think, and my filming was pretty lazy at that, but it's hard when you're, you know, covered in mud and stuff to be, you know, I don't have the money to keep buying different cameras every time I go out, so you got to be a bit careful with the ones that you do have that still work. The wind is supposed to die down overnight, and I've got a brief window in the morning of a couple hours. Originally, I had planned that I was going to film taking down, you know, all my setup, the hammock, the tarp, putting everything in the bags, and do like a wrapping up, I'm out of here, show me canoeing off into the sunrise, whatever. But the window is going to be too small for that, so I don't think it'll be an option. I'm going to just grab my gear, ram it away as quickly as I can, and head out while the heading out is good. It's been an awesome trip though. I mean, I really enjoyed this one. This one is one of my favorite camps that I went on for sure. I'm already in the works planning another one to another one of the islands out here that I think would be pretty cool. It's called Poplar Island, and I think I'd like to go over there for a trip here sometime in the future. Canoeing isn't something that I do very often, so it just adds something different to the channel. I mean, the water's been so rough the last 2 days here that I haven't had an opportunity to go out and do any more fishing or anything like that, but I did catch a little slough shark there on my little cheap fishing rod. You guys are probably wondering, why is he using that rod? Well, I'm using that rod because it's telescopic, it shrinks up really small. I can ram it into my pack because of the reel setup that's on the sucker. I don't have to worry about the line tangling or getting caught in a bunch of stuff or anything like that. It's all contained, so it just makes it convenient. Very, very convenient. And I mean, it does the job anyway, so I mean, I really like that rod. Everybody knows me, the cheaper the better. So yeah, it's been an awesome trip. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. This is gonna be it. This is the final closing video of this series. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you don't mind me rambling at the end of the video, but I just like to give a brief explanation of what I did, why I did it, you know, all that kind of good stuff. But until the next series, keep outdoors.